What's good, everyone? It is your favorite apostates. I am McKay.
I am Jordan.
And I'm coming at you with a new, not even close to legible, Disentomb t-shirt today. So what's good on that?
I'm wearing a hoodie, and I'm pretty sure there's a stain on it. So here we are.
Here we are. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into it today because we did kind of a long intro last time. But this is just a continuation of the Paul Morgan video that we were watching earlier this week. They thought that it was time for them to comment on the Black Xmas thing that the Black Lives Matter Instagram posted about buying black, banking black, and all that good stuff. Just an explanation. This video, so I guess the way that they do their videos is they will live stream the video and then like do a Q&A at the end of it, and then they will edit that video, that live stream, and put it up as like a regular video. So when they uploaded the video, it did not contain a live stream. Now our friend Softspock shot us an Instagram DM. Softspock is a regular on Fundy Snark Uncensored, so shout out to them. But they got us a screen recording of the whole live stream, and we're gonna talk about that today. I'm gonna cut the parts out that really aren't applicable to this whole conversation. They do get off topic quite a bit. Shocking. But we're just gonna kind of continue to react to it.
I have not seen this part.
Yeah, I only showed Jordan one piece of it. I watched the whole thing while my son was napping and Jordan was at work, and I was like, it's pretty rough. I think they always cut off the Q&A section. I just looked at one other video and it seemed like they did cut off the Q&A section for that video too. But it definitely serves them to have cut off the Q&A section on this, because I'm like blown away.
And as is with the previous video, if you have not watched the previous video, we will link it here so that you know. Because if you're coming to this one without the full context, it's probably not going to make much sense.
Yeah.
So go watch the first one first. And as with the first one, we gave the disclaimer that as Paul and Morgan are, we are also white people, and we are absolutely part of this problem. And our whole goal here is to call out behavior from our white friends here who have decided that they're going to share their opinions and
use their platform to share opinions that are just completely off base
and racist and inappropriate. And so, which, if you know anything about Paul and Morgan, this isn't out of left field information for you. So we are absolutely not experts in this process. Learning about all of these things, getting educated, reading. This is a process. It's not like you hit an end note and you're good and you're like, yeah, I get it all. Everything's great now. Especially as white people, our whole goal is to call out behaviors that we see as inappropriate. We, at one time in our lives, as Fundy raised type people, likely would have agreed with a lot of the things that they say. I
said it last video, and I think it is worth saying again. 5 years ago, I would have been in the same exact shoes as Paul and Morgan were. And I put a note in that video as well. Like, we're not saying this because people can't learn. People can learn. It's never too late. You can educate yourself and you can make a change. Like, just because I grew up that way does not mean that is something that I wanted to continue to do.
And it's a process to unpack. So if you're in that situation, there's a lot to unpack. If you're starting from, if you were raised in an environment with these very right-wing, conservative, intense ideals, and it's going to take you a while to break those things down, but it's absolutely necessary for us white people, to do in order to not to contribute to this anymore, because we play a role in it. And that's the problem with the statements that Paul and Morgan make. So
yeah. So we want to make sure we amplify Black voices, and we are listening to Black voices as well. So just be aware of that when you get called out and you feel shitty, like you felt like you got called out, don't take that as a personal attack. Take it as an opportunity for you to learn.
The same is being said as we said in the last video for us. If we've made mistakes in the past, we'll continue to. If there's something in this video that we said
need to be corrected,
we will absolutely correct it. We will take ownership. We're not perfect in this process. We're not coming from a place of Paul and Morgan. I mean, we do sometimes, but
definitely. And this, I mean, this isn't a comfortable thing because we're in the spot where we're like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna flop or if people are gonna criticize us for this, but you have to be comfortable because it's not comfortable.
Here's the thing: it's not the burden of educating other white people on not being complete idiots in this sense should not fall to people of color. Period. It's that emotional labor shouldn't be their problem. So as white people who recognize that this behavior is inappropriate, we can call out that behavior and say, hey,
or others,
what the hell are you doing? So that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. So long story short, Black Lives Matter, and we want to make sure that we're listening to the Black voices that are telling us where we need to get out of the way and shut up and where we should be calling people out. Anyway, let's do a little transition and we'll get it going. Okay, like I said earlier, our friend Softspock hit us up with a screen recording. I had to download VLC Media Player to play this file. I don't know how they recorded it, but we're gonna do our best here because I'm not used to using this media player to view things. I'm also going to skip over. They talked about presidential candidates and stuff. I don't care. That's not really pertinent to this. And there's some other stuff that I wanted to just kind of leave out. I just wanted to hit on some of the main stuff, and some of it I will just cut out because it's kind of in the middle of conversation, kind of weirdness. So anyway, any comments before we start?
Nope.
All right, we're just going to get into it. This was right after they ended the video. They played their little patron thing because, shocker, they can't get anybody to sponsor videos. So
can't imagine why.
I can't imagine why. So let me grab the keyboard and make sure the mouse is out of the way. The cursor that you might see on the screen was not mine, so you might not be able to see it anyway. But
and we're back.
What's up, you guys?
What's up, you guys?
What's up, Morgan? I see a few super chats that I really am grateful for and want to get to, and then we'll just keep going.
She has the same phone as us.
Sounds goody gumdrops.
You guys, how are you holding up after that?
It's so bizarre.
I saw someone in the comments say bye, thinking that we were ending our video. We're not ending. You don't have to leave yet.
No, you guys know how this is.
We were.
All right, super chats. Alicia Barnes, thank you. Dedicated supporter right there.
I'm not gonna.
Faithful supporter, you said, I think it has a lot to do with hate and unforgiveness. We really need to pray for these people and hold them up to the Lord.
Please hold me up to the Lord.
When people, and that's really good, Alicia, when people try to operate in the flesh.
You are not. Shut up.
To solve problems and to get something done, and it truly is void of the Holy Spirit, oftentimes it is. It is fueled by unforgiveness, and yet it's called social justice.
Unforgiveness sounds weird to me. We'll get to that's called social justice in a second, but unforgiveness sounds bizarre. Unforgiveness.
It just reminds me of that Metallica song.
Is that a word?
I like the part where he said it's devoid of the Holy Spirit. Yeah, unforgiveness.
Unforgiveness sounds weird to me.
Is that? I don't know. It's probably right in some capacity.
There is not a dictionary definition for unforgiveness.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Oh, wait, there is. but I kind of had to dig for it. It sounds weird.
Devoid of the Holy Spirit. I know a lot of things that are devoid of the Holy Spirit, and they work. I'm devoid of the Holy Spirit. So there's that. The social justice part. Yeah. What? Paul is definitely a frequenter of Social Justice Warrior Gets Owned by Facts and Logic compilation 4.
Here's the funny thing about
it, though. Wake up tone.
Is these people in particular are like so deep into Christianity that they're like, oh God, I love being persecuted, and just God justice, ever-loving justice. Yeah. Our God is a just God, all about justice. And then when it comes to justice in any other context, particularly where they might be, on the side of the oppressor, they're like, don't like that.
No
justice for you.
Suddenly, it's so funny because there's so many other applications of that same logic where they're like really hard into facts and logic, and then when it comes to logical things that are like, yeah, maybe, maybe Jesus was a myth, they're like, no, I know it's true because I felt the light of Jesus in my life. Like, oh, okay, dog.
Mormons
maybe
do the
just
same
be
thing.
a little more objective.
Y'all aren't unique. Here, let me get it for you, Morgan, because you don't know how to do anything.
Super chat.
Thank you, Todd.
Are you guys aware of the reason why they are doing this? It's a response to John Crawford's murder that
this one got me.
Happened in a Walmart in 2014. Cops got off. So I do know that this was started in 2014 because of this. I don't honestly know much information about what happened then.
And that is absolutely something that you can recognize. And
I'm going to go out on it because I've been getting this fucking comment so often on another video of ours. Is Google broken? You can go on Google. It will take you a minute to just get the general gist of what's going on and say, I know this happened and it seems like it was wrong. I don't know the details of it. Rather than just being like, I don't really know what was going on with that.
Because it's not an excuse.
We explained it in the last video, but...
Because it's the sad reality of which we live, and, the whole part of the reason for the Black Lives Matter movement is because of this issue. And so, to me, it's kind of embarrassing to go on this rant about this
and then
whole
not
thing.
Be informed. But honestly, it's just par for the course. Especially for people like Paul and Morgan.
Because mind you, in the beginning of this video, if you remember, they read the article from Fox where they addressed that this was started because of John Crawford. Yeah. And so they know that
police involved
because
shooting.
Of the Fox News article that stated that. That's not that they went and did extra research to figure out what was going on. That's they read the name in the article and were like, oh yeah, that has something to do with it.
They said, oh, John Crawford 2014. Yeah, I know that, but I don't know anything about that. Okay, just why?
So if you're going to go on a damn
if you want to look for context about why things are happening, maybe look for some context, right?
Maybe if we wouldn't have gone into this video without doing research on things beforehand. Like, I wanted a more concise way to articulate things from the last video, so I did more research, and we actually read you guys some things that were much more well worded than I could have come up with. Yeah. And so that's part of doing research for your videos. And so when you do shit like this, you just come off misinformed.
Yep. Anyway, I think it gets worse.
Yeah, I don't know all the details behind that, but you can be sorrowful for that. But then to come out and to make this a push as a response to that, don't shop at white businesses.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem okay.
It just doesn't seem okay to you. Come on.
It just goes to show that there's so much of a lack of self-awareness here, and there truly is. I mean, I truly believe that these two are not even in the slightest have read anything other than material from the right on these type of things because they're so narrow-minded about these things, and they have no other frame of reference from which to look other than, you know, from Christianity framework, which I would argue that this isn't a Christian framework from which to look at things, especially when we're talking about capitalism. But that's a video for another day. But it's just, it's sad to me to see that they really have no ability, like A plus B equals C, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Like, we could make this really simple if you really put some thought into it, but
they choose not to.
They choose not to recognize how they might be related. Also, not to mention the complete and utter lack of empathy that I felt from that statement. Like,
you can feel sorrowful for it. Paul, don't care or feel sorrowful or like lament the loss of a life at the hands of law enforcement. But, you know, if you feel so inclined.
This man died.
Because some racist person decided to make a scene in a Walmart over nothing.
Make a call about false information. And so it's just a total and utter lack of empathy thing for me. Like, it just shows a lack of regard for human life in any context. Like, if that, like, imagine being like, oh yeah, you know, somebody died and that was sad. You can be sorrowful about it. Like,
especially with how pro-life these two are, and they actually talk about
that's super Christ-like behavior. Super Christ-like.
Yeah, good job. No, Jordan, you're coming at it from the liberal Jesus framework of thinking. Come on,
dismissive.
Candace says, "I just go to the stores that have what I need and buy stuff."
That's a good call.
Amen, girl. Amen.
If there is a store,
I go to the stores that don't have what I need, and then I go home because they don't have what I need.
Store that you.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth.
What?
She said, "I'll mail you some bread with the Christmas card."
Oh. If there, like, here's when it becomes racist. When you just say,
"Strap in." Paul is going to explain it.
Guys, don't shop at any white businesses. Racist. If you want to say there's a white business that is advocating for blank, don't shop there. You have a reason. Don't be racist, though.
If you
there is a reason, though. It's upholding white supremacist capitalism. They fucking explained it in the post, dude.
That would require critical thinking.
I know.
That would require utilizing your brain to step out of your own perspective for a moment. Back to that whole empathy piece and being able to use logic to make decisions and understand things. I don't know.
Won't somebody think of the big box white stores? Won't somebody think of them?
If you're listening to this and you're confused about racism and prejudice and reverse racism, go watch the previous video because we break it down for you very simply. So Paul's just dead wrong, and I'm not going to explain it again.
Yep.
Racism is choosing to withhold for no other reason except for skin color.
Yeah.
Good job. You have a dictionary. Let's clarify something. The dictionary is not the authority of what something means. It's a collection of how words are being used. Somebody tried to say, "Oh, Oxford said this." That's the dictionary. We know how it's used. It doesn't mean that's right.
Well, and think about context and when were those dictionary definitions written in it. It's just like it's picking the one thing that they have and saying that's the racism definition says that this is big. Again, we're talking about prejudice because there's a balance of power that's missing in that statement. Can't be racist to white people because white people always have the upper hand.
Or you just don't like... Well, no, that doesn't make sense. If you just don't like them, that's just being mean.
Don't just be mean.
NB says BLM wants segregation. That's their end goal. Honestly...
These commenters, they are like fucking galaxy brain takes over here.
Segregation. And Paul said this in the last video too.
Literally, people are just like, I think that Black Lives Matter, and people are like, you just want white segregation.
You guys see how stupid you sound, right? Like, I don't know how to... Like, I feel like I'm being, like, more offensive to them than I need to be, but I'm just astounded. Like, I am astounded.
There were a couple of people who were like, your tone is condescending and bullying toward Paul and Morgan. And
if bullying is calling people out for saying racist bullshit, then I'm a bully.
Why do you feel attacked? I'm not coming at you. Unless maybe
if you feel uncomfortable, then maybe...
Yeah.
Sit with that.
Also, you probably haven't seen our other videos that we talk about Paul and Morgan, where they're just, like, hateful people, honestly.
That's what it feels like. That's very much what it feels like and would seem like from just the things that they've stated, the things that they believe.
Well, and from my understanding of Marxism.
Communism.
Oh, God.
Marxism.
Trigger word.
Trigger word. Paul. Will you just break it down for me, what you think Marxism and socialism mean in your next video? If you see this, which I hope you don't, because that would be really just tragic that you're that concerned about what other people are saying. But yeah, just kind of break it down for me.
This is the problem with the whole, like, I think we told him in the last video, like, go read about segregation and what that looked like, because clearly you don't know what that means. But this is the same problem that we were just talking about like 30 seconds ago. Like, racism according to Paul. Marxism according to Paul.
Segregation according to whoever the hell commented.
And that's the problem with this whole argument is, well, Paul said, well, I read something on the internet one time that XYZ. And I'm like, okay. The problem is you're not getting information from reputable sources. And primarily not black people. And therein lies your problem.
Well, they do talk about Vadi Bakum.
Candace Owens.
And Candace Owens on here, so...
Because I forgot, Candace Owens is the one person that can speak for black people.
Hearing... They cite 2 black voices, so...
My understanding of Marxism is the end goal is to disrupt and tear down...
Wrong.
A country from the inside.
That's not what it is, dog.
Those are very...
Why would that be the fucking goal of the Soviet Union? Come on, dude.
Oh, I mean, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
They formed a union just so they could disrupt and destroy their own union? Okay, dog.
Go read some things. Dude, read a book.
If BLM wanted to be consistent, then they would boycott Christmas altogether, as it's the product of what they call white Christianity. True.
Okay,
yeah. Should we talk about how white Christianity bastardized all these pagan traditions into what is now a capitalist holiday?
We've talked about this before in previous videos, how there's a wide spectrum of Christianity and tons of people. I would tell you 1,000 with my whole chest that there are not 2 Christians who believe the same thing, because you just can't. It's the same thing with Mormonism. Like, you just can't, because there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. And so I think these 2 are very, very confident in that their base represents true Christianity, and all people that align themselves as good Christians with these 2 hold their same viewpoints, and anybody else that doesn't is a Satan-loving devil worshiper, or whatever the hell Haley called us last time. So
me.
So I think that's where they're kind of missing the boat here, is that there are, and we have quite a few Christians that are subscribers to our channel and who are supporters of ours, and we don't have any hate towards Christians in general.
Yeah.
But I think these 2...
I make some critical comments of it, and people don't take it as a personal attack, because it's fine to criticize, right?
It's... Any mainstream religion is going to have faults, right? But I think the point here that these 2 are missing is that their take that Christians don't support Black Lives Matter, they're far off base, because I'm sure after this video is posted, we're going to have numerous people in the comments that are saying, I'm Christian and I fully support Black Lives Matter. I fully support it. And so I think these 2 are off on an island thinking that
all of Christianity is on the same island with them.
Hates BLM.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to talk about we'll get to that later on. There's a particular instance that we'll see.
Paul looks so annoyed. He's like gazing in the distance.
Like, you can boycott or personally just not shop somewhere all you want.
Can you?
I think that that's totally fine.
It's just when Black Lives Matter's Instagram tells you to do that, it's not right. Especially if it's white-owned businesses.
It's true.
You don't feel comfortable shopping at a place, but then to like try and force those convictions or force that on other people, on literally 4.3 million people.
Okay, wait a minute. So let me get this thing straight. She's trying to compare this and saying that this whole idea of Black Christmas, right? This whole, or Black Xmas, whatever Paul and Morgan call it.
Okay.
My mind's a little blown here because here Morgan is saying that they're forcing this, like the Black Lives Matter movement is forcing this on people, and people have no other choice. This is being forced upon them. But you know, every other video, every other minute when they're discussing their pro-life takes, but being pro-life and anti-choice isn't forcing anything on people either.
No, Jordan, those are two different things.
Explain to me that
they're not
logic.
The same things.
Because here we're talking about personal motive and choices with an Instagram post with a movement that nobody's being forced to participate in. But, you know, we're not talking about pro-choice or pro-life, and that's forcing people based on laws because Christians are uncomfortable with it, right?
It's the same way that my friend Sable Chicken here on YouTube was forced to click on our video after I told him to buzz off, and felt the need to comment after being forced to click on the video that was recommended to them because YouTube knows them better than them, that they did not want to click on the video. Okay. It's just because you follow something on Instagram does not mean that it's forcing you to do anything. The people who choose to follow, they're probably inclined to do that anyway.
It's the same type of ideology that what other people are doing that either aren't Christian or that they don't agree with in some way impacts them or undermines them or what they're doing. It's similar logic with gay marriage. Like, for some reason, other people being able to marry who they want to marry is disturbing the validity of the Christian, Catholic, Mormon marriage.
The nuclear family.
The nuclear family is exploding, right? Because the gays want to get married. So it's the same type of ideology. Is they're so bothered by something that doesn't even have to apply to them if they don't want to participate.
Yeah. Well, the family portion, like I've said in the past, you get your own cake, you get your own pie. Nobody's taking out of your pie because they're doing what they want.
You have your own pie.
Yeah. The thing here is with capitalism, that's not how it works. Everybody's got the same cake, and people who have a lot of cake can make more cake, but you don't get to if you don't have a lot of cake.
Well, and I don't understand why they're so bothered by it, because they've said they don't agree with BLM. They don't support the Black Lives Matter movement. That's evident here.
Yeah.
Based on the last video and this one. And so why are you guys so interested in this? Like, if it's not something you're interested in and you don't support them?
Clicks.
We're not given any reasons.
Yeah, other than their skin color. I think that's not okay. But if you're like, I'm not comfortable shopping there because of their beliefs or because of
that's okay,
where the money goes, like, that's one thing. But if you're like,
they gotta reserve that right.
She literally was like, if you do it because you're supporting Black business owners, Black banks, and things like that, that's not okay. But if because you have to take away from the white businesses and banks and capitalists and everything like that.
Cry in a corner.
But if you aren't supporting these other organizations because of where the money goes,
your belief system,
that's okay. That's fine.
Because remember, we got to reserve the right to refuse service to gays.
It's okay when it's congruent with my beliefs. It's not okay when it's not congruent with my beliefs.
Shopping there because their skin color. That's wrong. That's disgusting, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You. Oh, my dear. I am embarrassed for you. The secondhand embarrassment over here, I'm like...
It is real.
It's palpable over here.
Let's see, you guys. What else are you all saying? We'll stay on this...
it's not cute to be ignorant, Morgan.
For as long as, you guys want to. And then I'm totally down with transitioning.
He wants to get off this topic because he knows
opening
that
up
they're
to
going
any
to have to cut it.
Yeah, go ahead and ask any questions you guys want. I just really quick wanted to say, and this is not about this topic, the other kind of topic we were going to talk about today or thought about talking about was what is happening right now in D.C. at the Supreme Court with the Roe v. Wade.
That's not what it is.
Dobbs case. And honestly, Paul and I just don't feel totally equipped to talk about everything that's going on. But it's really important.
Hold up. That statement alone. They were wise enough to say... Wise. They were... I don't know what they were. They were smart in some regard to say, I don't feel prepared enough or like I have enough knowledge to talk about the Roe v. Wade situation and the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. I don't feel like I have enough knowledge to speak on it, but you had enough knowledge to speak on this.
There you go. Case closed.
Embarrassing.
Case that's going on trying to basically end Roe versus Wade, which would just be absolutely incredible.
Awful.
Stop.
No more abortions, basically.
No. Let's stop that right here. Roe v. Wade doesn't mean the end of abortions. Roe v. Wade means the end of safe abortions. Let's make that really clear.
This is not part of the topic at hand, but
that every state could kind of decide what they're going to do. So if you want more information or just want to know what's going on, liveaction.org is a really good website / their
sounds
Instagram
like a shit
page,
website.
liveaction.org. You can follow their updates and stuff. They're doing a really good job of updating and keeping you in the loop. And Allie B. Stuckey, I think, is posting some about it as well. So
yeah,
I don't even know
from
who
my
that
understanding,
is.
this is a really big deal of what's
really big.
happening literally right now in DC. While Morgan and I were in DC, I guess we got back on Monday. Mm-hmm. So this stuff really kicked off
on Wednesday is when it started, yesterday.
Yeah, and we've been posting some about it on Instagram.
Yeah, I think every Christian should be aware of what's going on and be praying for this because this is a huge, huge, huge
Let's get some separation of church and state, y'all.
Deal. Here's the thing.
If
they do a video on this, I will rip them to shreds.
We'll come to them.
To shreds. This is not... I will fight you on this shit. I know this shit like the back of my hand. It's my second language, and I will wreck you over this stuff. So do it. I dare you to come on here and pretend you're educated enough to have an argument about this and feel like you know enough to talk about it. Do it. I'm waiting. I am so ready for it.
Anyway, on.
Past, we would be... I've been seeing people post, we would
Jordan
be the generation... X Roe v. Wade or something like that. Generation pro-life, generation.
I'm gonna throw up.
Whatever.
That's crazy to think about because I look at kind of like the younger generation coming up, millennials, Gen Z, and if I'm being honest, I see a lot of embracing secularism and socialism. I see a lot
of acceptance and love and people being appreciated and being recognized as their authentic selves and being able to make their own choices, not having choices made for them based on Christians pushing their own religious ideals onto other people. That's what you see. And that makes you uncomfortable.
Makes you uncomfortable. And helping people is socialism. Thank you.
Dear heavens almighty.
This has been socialism according to Paul.
Liberal policies. So that's, am I missing it? Are we more...
Also, socialist and liberal are antonyms.
Valuing of life and Christianity than I realize?
I don't know, but I hope so. I mean, just the judges that we have on the Supreme Court, we've got a really good selection, a decent amount of pretty solid.
Yeah, you got a
conservative
majority.
So
yeah,
that's
isn't
really
that
cool.
funny?
So yeah, just be keeping that in your prayers. Be
And
keeping the judges in your prayers.
Some liberal pieces of shit on there too. So let's not.
America in your prayers. And that we decide to say no to killing 2,363 babies a day through abortion.
Stop. Stop.
Please
stop.
Shut up. Please stop.
Stop.
I see Ariana going back to the previous topic saying it's not about skin color, but economic inequality. And to that I would say, okay, fair enough. Economic inequality, if you feel like blacks are not...
we're about to come up on some fucking hot takes.
And before he even says this, I want to emphasize that he just said, if you feel like. That's the same as an apology. Like, I'm sorry if you feel like I did something to hurt you. That completely takes the blame off of himself, and it's because you feel like it's bad. It's not because I did something bad.
It's not because it's objectively true. It's because that's how you feel.
It's because you're offended.
Yeah.
Receiving equality when it comes to business and so forth, then encourage the BLM, whatever you call them, the followers, encourage them to
movement.
shop. I mean, to me, that still is unsettling. Shop at black-owned stores, but that sounds a lot better than don't shop at white-owned stores.
Here's what I was talking about with the cake. Hey, I'm going to buy Jordan a gift from a black-owned store because I want to support black business owners. Okay, thanks, Paul, for your advice. Now I'm going to go buy the same fucking thing at a white-owned store just so Paul over here doesn't get mad.
It's...
How can those two things exist? It's not like... What?
The only thing that changes is the rhetoric. That's the only thing that changes. He's literally saying the same thing.
He's just changing the phrasing.
Do you not?
Come on.
Why are you... Only hit dogs holler, bitch. Why is this so offensive to you? Like, why are you so bothered? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't shop at white stores.
Boycott all white-owned stores. Yeah.
Let's see.
Awfully quiet.
Uh-huh.
Fajo says, he's quoting a little bit of Galatians 3:28 when he says, there is neither Jew nor Greek.
Girl.
Oh,
and her name is Fallon.
Fallon?
Yeah, but like her real name is Fallon.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And I realized that BLM, very few.
Except that scripture is great. I love it, but it was not in practice for centuries. So, no thank you.
I got to choose my words. The founders are not Christians. They are anti-Christian is what it seems. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you don't have to look far to see that they're...
The founding fathers are BFFs with Jesus Christ, just in case you didn't know.
No, he's talking about the founders of
I know.
BLM. Oh, okay.
But...
Oh, they are besties with Jesus.
This is the kind of alignment that we're having here is the founders of this movement are negative and bad
anti-Christian
and anti-Christian
and satanic.
Then we have the founding fathers who were just giant fucking pieces of shit, but they're besties with Jesus. So,
dude, that is a sticker for sure. Besties with Jesus.
They hold on to their core beliefs are in many ways like opposite to what the Bible calls, and yet they try to say that we are love and justice.
Yeah.
That's the way
opposite. They're calling violence and calling people.
Because Jesus never flipped any tables, eh?
In the temple.
What's the word? Riot.
Oh,
don't make
like flipping tables and shit.
To me,
when people were being greedy.
Yeah, in the temple. Money changers.
Interesting.
Let's see.
It's funny how they always find an excuse to bring up the rioters.
The rioting.
And, yeah, come on.
Let's see what else you guys are up to.
It's just a way to invalidate.
NB says, if BLM truly wanted to help their community, they wouldn't bash the concept
this is where it gets pretty spicy.
Of the nuclear family. Look at the rates of single black mothers in high crime areas.
Stop.
I mean, we could talk about that for a while.
Are you serious?
Oh my God. Literally, I heard this part and I immediately text Jordan. I was like, this is so much worse than what they said in the actual video.
I have no words.
Can I get a citation on any of that, folks? If you don't see any problem with that, you're not going to like our channel. Just go.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't even know how to respond to that. The ignorance and it's the imbalance. Like it is very evident in these types of situations where it's like it's a pity. It's a pity on these poor people who, just don't know any better and just can't help themselves. And
yeah, I would not be surprised if at some point Paul has parroted those dumbass talking points of, despite making up 13% of the population. Shut up, dog. It's dumb to say things like that, and it comes off so misinformed because you just heard somebody say shit like that and you took it at face value.
You have no... Like, this is the part, like, I'm astounded and I'm pissed. And it's concerning to me because this isn't going to change. Like, I don't see... And people hate on us for making these videos because they're like, oh, you just make people double down. And I'm like, yeah, for some of them that might be the case. But these videos aren't just for the benefit of Paul and Morgan. Because Paul and Morgan are balls deep in this shit. And I don't think they're coming out anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be a lot of work.
The other point of this is to start a dialogue about these issues, especially as white people, and looking at the many areas in which we're f***ing up and what we can do about it, and calling out inappropriate behavior when we see it and being responsive and correcting our behavior when we're being called in or called out. Yep. That's the whole point. It's because we're all somewhere as white people along this journey, and it's our responsibility to be along that journey, because people like this, we're going to stay where we are.
Yep.
We're not on track to be more accepting, loving, supporting people who are trying to dismantle systems of oppression and recognizing racism and discrimination and those types of things. Like, this is just, it's astounding that people think like this and are just able to stay here and not care.
Yeah, and I'll repeat again, I say things like this because I would have said the same shit, the exact same shit, and I felt called out for saying things like that, so, I will correct the record, obviously, so.
Because it is, and I was a staunch Republican when I moved to Utah and started college, and I was brainwashed by my liberal university to be where I'm at now. But the problem is, and a lot of it has nothing to do with education or elitism or that kind of thing. We're not talking down on them in that way, because I don't think either of them have degrees, but that's irrelevant because you can read.
Yeah,
you can read. So there's no excuse, and there's plenty of resources out there. I've got resources in the description. If you guys are really struggling that hard, I've done it for you. You don't even have to look it up. I've got the links down there. Just put it up on your iPad and read it. It's really that simple. It's that simple.
Yeah. You could snuggle up with your little hot chalky in bed and you can read it together.
But you won't, because it makes you uncomfortable and you know it.
Yeah.
It's tragic.
It is.
This
it's really,
video
really
is tragic.
Sad.
And that goes for any ethnicity. When the father is not in the home, or that starts to become a very big issue, in a certain ethnicity, it's detrimental. Mm-hmm. And if you do look at the rates, it's heavier among blacks, sadly.
So
it's very sad.
Okay, so let me just give something to think about here, because first of all, I need sources on that, because I don't take anything these two say ever. Just ever. Because they don't cite anything. They don't have anything to back it up unless it's a Fox News article. I ain't interested in that shit. So this whole idea of single black mothers and having to raise children, and this whole, like, it happens to them more than it happens to anyone. And I'm like, I don't know how true that is, but coming from a framework of mass incarceration that exists within the United States, there's a reason why a largely disproportionate amount of people, when we're talking about black people in jail versus white people in jail, and black people in jail for minor drug offenses versus white people in jail. So we've got kind of a, maybe some fathers aren't present. Maybe there's a reason for that. And maybe it's not a just reason. Maybe it's because, you know, we've legalized recreational marijuana use in a variety of states, but still have people in prison for minor
same offenses,
marijuana drug charges.
Interesting.
That's
why I hold true that if hell were real, Ronald Reagan would be there.
So, and this is, if you want to read some interesting thoughts within the arena of mass incarceration and its role in the United States, The New Jim Crow. It's a book. It's amazing. It's actually part of like the social work curriculum for this last semester I had. Super worth your time. Very much worth your time. So and that's why these kind of statements that they make in isolation are really grabby. And Fox News and the right-wing sources do the same things, because that kind of information pulls you in and goes, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if you don't have the context for that situation and why it exists and why it is that way, and how white systems and oppression and police law and 4 million other things that white people do that contribute to that, if you don't factor that in as pieces of the puzzle, then you're looking at it through a lens that's this big.
Pinhole.
That's your problem.
So
don't make statements like that.
Yeah, don't.
Without having shit to back it up. Unless you've got arguments for every single one of those things that you can't address. And that was just one perspective that I threw in there. Like, you can't say shit like that.
You can on a deleted portion of a video.
Yeah. Funny, huh?
Yeah.
And I can't tell if the counter is just cut off a little bit. If there were only 21 people watching at one time, that would be awesome. But
the nuclear family provides stability and security.
Also, the number of likes went down. I'm pretty sure when we started it was at 101, and now it's at 98.
I thought it was at 95 a bit ago.
Maybe I could be wrong. Oh, I was watching it earlier.
Also, nuclear family. Oh my God. Mormons lose
Oh,
their shit over that too. That's like they
bread
love
and
that
butter.
word. They love that word.
The Gardner quoted Proverbs saying, "Mockers stir up a city, but the wise turn away anger." Sit on that for a second, guys.
Sit on that for a second, guys.
Good.
Oh my God.
It's good.
Wow.
He's
good.
so far up on his fucking high horse, he cannot see anything. He is in outer fucking space on this horse right now. Like, he cannot see anything around him. He's zero
wild.
Perspective, zero empathy, zero ability to understand literally anything related to what he's talking about.
That's outside of what he wants to.
That's outside within the little right framework that he believes within conservatism and Christianity. Like, dude, you're like, you want to talk about, people were talking about us being condescending in the last video. Holy shit, guys.
This dude. Yeah.
The girl who lives next to us just pulled up, and she is blasting music in her car.
There's
really
one more
loud.
instance I want to wait for.
So much.
And then I will skip.
Be able to hear it.
What is happening?
Yes,
Now, this is a reason to make fun of white people right here.
Mary Elizabeth says, yes, and Candace Owens and Turning Point America actually help the black community by challenging them and encouraging independence and strong families. What do you guys think of Candace Owens, you guys?
You don't want my opinion on Candace Owens.
What are your thoughts? Because she's been called
handle my
everything in the
opinion on Candace
books.
Owens.
Being
Black people are not a monolith.
A black conservative who's not just a conservative, but like she is as savage as, I mean, she's got ice water.
First of all, we don't use that word.
Yeah, if you're white, stop saying that. That has been such a destructive word for white people to use. If you want to use a word that's along those same lines, Just say ruthless.
Shitty. Terrible. Awful.
No, she's ruthless. What?
Any of those words would apply.
Oh, no, I'm just saying a synonym for a word that's not
Get a thesaurus.
She's
in her veins.
Savage.
She's a savage.
He just said ice water in her veins. Brad, it's just ice. Just ice. Stop.
Where do they come?
Ice water.
I really appreciate her, but sometimes I'm like, whoa, girl.
This is like a
girl. Same.
I'm gonna criticize you, but I don't feel really like I have good points to criticize you with.
Savage.
She can be brutal, like almost overly brutal. But then I'm kind of like,
there you go, brutal.
Can God use that? Mm-hmm. I mean, perhaps maybe she could pull back a little bit, but it's like,
of course, when it's overly brutal and not in your view, it's bad. But if it's overly brutal and it fits your view, God can use that.
I'm trying to think. As far as I know, I don't know a ton about Candace Owens. Okay, I've seen enough, I've read enough to formulate at least my own personal opinion of her, which isn't super pertinent here, but I feel like Candace Owens is extremely conservative. So if these two see something in her that's like, whoa,
Candace
maybe
Owens
she
is
should pull back a bit,
very
then like, what is she doing that like these two are bothered by? Is it simply like...
I saw a TikTok today of somebody who I think articulated very well kind of my same thoughts about it. Maybe I will include her TikTok in here, but...
Again, it's what's palatable for me. And the second it starts becoming not palatable for me, I'm like, the second this starts to challenge me and makes me think of things from a different perspective or requires your front part of your brain to do that critical thinking piece... It's like, oh shit, man. No. I'm good.
I would rather not.
I'm good.
You know, she's breaking some walls down.
Yeah, and I think that we need people like her in our community, in the Christian community.
Okay, I'm going to skip forward a little bit.
Zora says, I'll be praying for the both of you, praying that you can have a softened heart for the Black community. I'm not sure
Zora, I think this is the same commenter that I want to hit on a little bit after
you
this.
have gotten the idea that we don't have a soft heart for the Black community just because we disagree.
This is literally like...
You mean she watched this video?
I'm going to sidestep your criticism by gaslighting you, and I'm going to take it a step further right here.
With BLM does not mean, and that I honestly despise the fact that people want
Buckle up, George.
to assume that because we don't support BLM organization means we don't support Black people. My cousin is Black. I have 6 Black cousins.
Hold on, it gets a little bit better.
I guess they're like second cousins. So
that's your justification? Wow. I thought we as a human species moved past the token Black friend or token Black family member kind of way of excusing that you're not a racist or you don't have racist tendencies.
Well, and it's so, again, like I firsthand did this. Like, I would straight up use this type of stuff. Like, I was in 2 relatively serious relationships with Black men in high school, and I used that same kind of logic when people would present that shit to me, and I'd be like, I'm not racist. Like, one of my best friends is Black. I've dated 2 Black men for long periods of time, so how could I be with them so long and not be racist? And
how do your family members, your second cousins, which is kind of a far relationship, a distant relationship if you ask me, feel about when your husband brings up these talking points of, oh, well, single single black mothers, I don't know, makes it pretty tough for them. Like, how do they feel about that? Have you talked to them?
Well, and here's the thing. Like, we know that this isn't appropriate. Like, we can get into things like tokenism and, you know, using the one black person that you know that has one opinion to speak for all the rest of black people. Yeah. Like, it's not appropriate to be like, I'm not racist because I have a black friend, or I have 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 black friends that don't support Black Lives Matter. Or I think what it comes down to for me is that you shouldn't, like, it shouldn't take having someone be related to you or having a friend that's black in order for you to empathize with the community on these issues. Like, it shouldn't be that hard, especially if you purport yourself to be this loving, Christ-like human being. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, well, you know, I do have a black family member, so I do kind of care. So, and if you do that, again, the whole point of this video is calling people out on these types of behaviors. We used to do these types of behaviors. Yeah. We're not sitting on a high horse being like, you know, we're so much better than you because we used to do this shit, you know? Like, we used to do this shit. So, yeah, this is a process.
Yeah, you want to hear a personal tidbit about me? So when I was a Mormon missionary in Honduras, I thought that when taxi drivers would try to charge me extra than what the normal rate would be, I thought it was because they were racist because I was white. I returned from Honduras in 2017, and I held that true till the end of it.
So here's the thing. We're not coming from
That's ridiculous, obviously.
Like, you guys are so freaking stupid. No one would ever think this way. No one would ever make these mistakes because it's not true. But we did. But here's the difference is you have to be willing to recognize that your behavior, even though that might have been the way that you've always done it, and even though that might be the way that people around you behave or your family members behave or the Christian community on the whole behaves, doesn't mean it's okay. So
your Christian community.
Right. Not like as a whole. Like the people you surround yourself with. Like, it's not an excuse anymore. You can't rely on those things and be like, well, that's just the way it was. Because
that's just how it is.
You two aren't teenagers. You're not 16 and were raised in a super Fox News crazy household.
Paul's like 6 years older than me.
Yeah. There's no excuse for this. You have the internet. You have resources available to you. I'm sure there's a library nearby. Like, everything is at your fingertips.
You have the most advanced technology in your pocket. Come on.
And this isn't going to be the end of them making mistakes, but you at least I feel like you at least need to try. Like, it's at the very least.
Yep. I think this is the last of this little bit.
Just stop.
Just stop.
I don't have a lot of words other than just stop. It's just so goofy and unrealistic to think that someone who doesn't support Black Lives Matter organization means they despise or hate the black community. So,
but it seems really hard for you, Morgan, to say Black Lives Matter just as a statement.
There was a lot of people in our comments that talked about it in the previous video. The distinctions being made between Black Lives Matter as an organization, as a chapter, as a movement. And there's no, they say organization a lot, but I think the majority of the time in these statements, they made some statements in the last one about fraud, but I think the majority of their time, they're talking about they're talking about the movement. Like, they're talking about the overall purpose of this, which is to state that Black Lives Matter and make advancements into people arriving at that conclusion, and how there's things that are contributing to that are white people are doing that are to the contrary. Yeah. So I think they're kind of confused, and it might be on purpose, because it's a little easier to say, I don't agree with the Black Lives Matter organization for fraud purposes, or because, they say shitty things.
It's easy to just play it off as, it's just not my preference.
It's the organization, and it's not as easy to say, I don't stand with Black Lives Matter. I don't believe those things, because that's essentially what you're saying. If you don't in some essence support Black Lives Matter as a white person, it makes me kind of
what are you saying to the contrary?
And I can't, we can't speak for people of color in that sense, but as white people, I feel like the bare minimum should be to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter. You might not agree with their methods or how they do certain things or how certain chapters behave.
An organization of the same name.
That's fine. But the whole premise of the thing, if that was the case, I would be going out of my way to make sure people understood, no, I understand that, Black Lives Matter. That's the purpose. I back that. I stand by that. It's the mishandling of things within chapters and fraud, and that distinction would be really important, but that distinction isn't being made here.
Him to
and then
open
she's
your
like,
eyes,
you need to go repent.
Your heart, soften your heart, and give you wisdom to know how to talk to people who don't support BLM without.
Oh my God,
they hate
Morgan!
The Black community, because I don't think that's beneficial or helpful for anyone. So there's,
what's not beneficial or helpful for anyone? This whole shit, everything that you've said in this whole video, because you have contributed literally nothing.
Tone policing.
Nothing.
Good job. Anyway, they're just going to talk about stupid presidential stuff here. I'm going to skip to the part. I think it's the same commenter. Let me see here.
Sorry, guys, but we're going back to it because I don't want to move past this if there's genuine stuff still that I feel good about getting to. Zora Mathews, as a fellow...
Okay, so it is the same commenter.
A
Christian and Black viewer. Pull that one up.
One moment.
It's about to get real up in here, guys. If you can't handle a little bit of realness, hop off the chat.
He wanted to say, if you're just a snowflake.
Yep.
Fingers and hands are starting to get clammy and it's too much to bear, hop off. It's about to get a little bit heated up in here.
All right, go ahead, babe.
Zora Mathews, thank you for the comment. As a fellow Christian and Black viewer, it only hurts watching your videos because you post a lot about how the Black community does things wrong, but never about what they have done right.
The sane course of action here would be to analyze. Maybe that's right.
Reflect.
Examine
your own behavior.
Just looking at their library of videos,
this is a reasonable observation.
This is pretty reasonable, but
and I don't know how they're going to respond because I haven't seen this part. But she did not come at them aggressively. She wasn't like, oh, and this goes for any of their commenters. They get riled up when people come at them super hard.
Yeah,
she presented this in a really
well, and honestly, even if she did, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
What she's saying is true. Mm-hmm. So,
a couple things that we can do to answer that. Something quickly that comes to my mind is we haven't talked much about any community, the Black community, the immigrants. There's so many. We haven't really talked about these until it becomes political, so to speak.
He's mad that he got called out, and
so the Black community, we see this movement in the BLM organization, and we see so many issues with it from Christian perspectives that we talk about it. We love the Black community. We see issues that the BLM organization has just thrusted into the spotlight, and we see so many Christians, just to us, it feels like kind of ignorantly getting behind it and supporting it because they think, oh, this is social justice, we should do this. And so we feel inclined to push back on it. Similarly to...
why do you feel inclined to push back?
You feel threatened by what it means?
I need you to sit with that because that is a key piece here. Because that... if it grinds your gears, if it gets you fired up in this realm of what we're talking about, there's a reason for it, and you need to sit with it because that's the only way that we make progress in these situations is when things like that are thrown in our face and we're like, whoa.
Oh, shit.
Why is that triggering me so much? Like, this is, and it's not on the other person, it's on you. And you need to figure out why that is, or you'll perpetuate bullshit like this.
Antifa is comprised mostly of white people. We are.
Do you know that? Also, you can't comprise Antifa of anything. Antifa is anti-fascism. I don't know if you know that. It's an ideology, friendo.
So down on Antifa, we would treat them even with more just...
Paul is anti-fascist. I don't know about double negatives, but...
Like, I don't even know the word. Like, severity and discontent.
Yeah.
We'd push back on them maybe even harder than BLM, because what...
Does that make you better?
Here's Paul deflecting.
That we've seen from them, it's ridiculous. And that's mostly whites. Mostly white little 20 millennials. It's ridiculous.
Paul
we
look
look at other
and he
just movements that are so aggressive in many ways, the LGBTQ agenda and the way that they are pushing their stuff in a way.
The gay agenda. We love the LGBTQ agenda.
If you've watched our videos,
obviously.
You know. And we've called them out on this bullshit before. We called them out, I don't even know, it was like months ago.
Yeah.
That we watched one of their godforsaken videos where they were shitting on the LGBTQ plus community and being, you know,
inflammatory
and, you know, the usual. And so this is not shocking to me, but they just throw everybody under the bus because they're different than them.
Yeah. It seems it's like we love you guys. We love the LGBTQ and we want to just pour into you guys and know how we can love you, but we do not like the ways we
pour what?
Seen the movement just so aggressively pushing their agendas and trying to force all of us to become these advocates when in many ways certain things do go against our Christian beliefs. So
God forbid you support and respect people.
Why is
God forbid
lumping this? It doesn't support our Christian perspective. Like, you really just lumped Black Lives Mattering in with that doesn't support your Christian perspective.
And we also can't go from being forced on you. The gays are forcing you to be gay. Also, you can't go from gay agenda and we love the LGBTQ plus community in the same breath. Those two things cannot coexist. And
we just want to love you and pour into you, whatever that means.
But gay agenda, man. They're forcing the gay on everybody and causing us to have to be allies for people that are being discriminated against.
Marginalized.
Man.
God.
Shit.
It really is just so hard to just do the absolute bare minimum.
God, it's so hard to behave like Jesus, man.
Like, what have you guys done for the black community? It seems like you're down on the black community because I guess I could see what you're saying in a way. You hear us talking about our displeasure, our concerns with BLM. I get that. But please don't take this.
That is with an organization, though. It's not with the black community. So I feel
like
here's
you're
explain it away.
And you're completely misunderstanding, or you're only hearing what you desire to hear. I've seen several of your comments, and it just feels like you're not even listening to what we're saying. I also just want to encourage you.
Can you hear Morgan holding back the white woman tears?
Disdain. What you hear in her voice is disdain.
In the comments that I've seen, it feels like, and I don't know you as a person, but it feels like from your comments that I've seen, you are putting a lot of emphasis on the color of your skin. And your identity is not the color of your skin. You are a daughter of the Father, the King, the Creator of the universe. That's what matters, okay? And I know that, of course, you're going to have desires to walk alongside the black community because that's what you're a part of. But even more than that, you're a part of the kingdom. And so let's not forget that here. And we're a part of that kingdom as well.
Assuming you're a part of the kingdom.
I mean, I'm just...
No true Scotsman, am I right?
Go off of what you said as you're a fellow Christian, which in my opinion, I'm going to just believe that you mean you're a fellow believer of the Word of God. You've accepted Jesus into your heart and what he has done, and you find your identity in him and nothing and no one else. And so I just want to encourage you to remember that this isn't about, and this is what the enemy wants, okay? He wants division in between the kingdom brothers and sisters in God. He wants division. And that is what he's doing through organizations, whether it's BLM or whatever organization out there, Antifa, like all this crazy crap.
I'm going to reiterate, Antifa is not an organization.
BLM is crazy crap. And on her point, this has turned into a sermon, but on her point of your identity comes from that and no one else, you don't tell anyone who their identity comes from. You don't tell a black woman who's calling you out on your shit that her identity is in Christ and Christ alone. Do you see how ignorant that is?
It speaks for itself. I honestly could not believe that they singled out Zora and just fucking went off on her in this manner. Like, why did you think that was a good idea? Because you felt attacked? Mm-hmm. You felt offended that somebody called you on your bullshit, and instead of a little introspection, you deflect, you explain away, and then you just straight up like weaponize your anger.
You went defensive, straight up defensive. There was no like, that's something that we're going to take into consideration in future videos. We're going to try to be more mindful of that, even though you know they won't. But they could have even said something like that, but they didn't even do that.
Yeah,
like
honestly,
they didn't even try to make it seem like they were going to be reflective or be like, yeah, you know, you make a good point. We'll have to think about that, even though, you know, they won't. But they couldn't even do that.
So I think that pretty much speaks for itself. Zora Mathews has a place in our community. Other than that, it's just fucking, I don't get. Do you want to watch any more of this, or
no.
That was basically what I wanted to hit on. After this, they just start talking about how they don't know what Japanese cuisine is, and it was really pissing me off. Okay. Not as much as this, obviously, but this is exactly what we were talking about last time. And I will reiterate, we did not know about this part really until we'd filmed it. And then after the fact, I'm like, Jesus, what are these people thinking? And it makes sense if this was intentional that they cut it. They were like, oh shit, that is not going to go over well, so we're just going to not. And maybe I think they always do that, but
There's probably a reason for that.
It really serves them well that they cut it, because this is troubling.
This is really troubling,
to say the least.
And I just, astounded is the word. I know I've said it multiple times, but it's just what keeps coming to mind, because it just scares me to think that if I would have continued down the path that I was on, from being raised in a white, very conservative, Republican, Mormon family that held some pretty not great ideology, if I would have continued down that path and not ever listened to anyone and reflected upon those things, that where mentally I would have ended up and how much I would have contributed more than we already are to this issue. And this is, to me, this is the scary things that people don't think about when thinking about the right and conservatism and right-wing bullshit, is how far they'll take you. Like, if they can pull you in, there's a reason it's a gradual process. And there's a people don't just get sucked into conspiracy theories overnight.
Yeah.
And right-wing bullshit and Fox News and the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro and all of those people are stepping stones on that path.
For sure. And it's just, troubling. It still is, and it's for me like this shit is what I would have said if we were in this situation. If the tables were turned and they were in our shoes and I was in their shoes as YouTubers still, I wouldn't have done anything differently. If I was in that situation, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have felt attacked, defensive, deflected, and then just like basically come down on someone and saying, your perspective is all wrong because you are wrong and you've been taught incorrectly, and you need to focus on the things that matter, which are the things that you have in common with us.
Well, and the problem is, I think, like as part of the deconstruction process, if you're deconstructing from a religion, like for example within Mormonism, things like race are extremely tied within Mormonism. It's woven throughout the history of Mormonism. And so when you grow up with those type of things, that's part of it. And so those things are kind of indoctrinated and ingrained in you. And then if you do ever get to a point where you leave and you start to deconstruct, then you start to deconstruct those things too. Yeah. And then you start to realize it's all connected. And religion in that aspect can sometimes be a barrier to really recognizing, as white people, the privilege, the racism, the institutionalized racism and oppression. And that goes for example, with Mormons, it's not just black people, it's with indigenous people. Religion can sometimes be a barrier to examining that and breaking that down, because there's this whole Christian Bible notion that, we all just get along in spite of skin color and despite skin color, and that's just the way it should be, but that's not the way it is. So, because there's 50 million other things at play that makes that not possible.
Yeah.
Because this behavior isn't loving people. It's not.
It's forced assimilation, honestly, in this situation where they're like, you need to be part of the kingdom you say you are.
And you're taking our words out of our mouth, and that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
And you need to pray that you receive what we're saying appropriately, because you're not understanding it. And it's like gaslight 101.
So do better, Paul and Morgan. Do better, all white people. We could do better, honestly. But this is just off the rails, honestly. Again, if there is something that needs to be addressed that we got wrong, please leave it in the comments. If you're saying you're just virtue signaling,
or if you're one of those people that are going to be like,
I don't care.
Woke. The right has totally taken that word and run with it too. The whole point of this, I feel like it's that whole term of with enlightenment. When people think when they're deconstructing and when they're learning about racism and institutionalized things and oppression, and they'll finally get to the point where they just know everything and they're woke, or they know everything and they're enlightened. And
yeah,
that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And so to use that as a word, as
especially
a white person,
with enlightening,
to identify as,
it's kind of stealing a Buddhist term, but
it's just disappointing. And there's no, you don't have to we talked about this a little bit in our last video, but it's never too late to figure it out. It's never too late to just start reading and start with the very basics of things that you do or don't understand, or beliefs that you long held that might need to be challenged. It's never too late to start that, and you don't have to go balls deep into everything right away. But it's our responsibility to do as white people, and to hold each other accountable for these types of things. It shouldn't always fall to black people to correct white people when they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. That's not their burden. It's not their problem. So that's kind of the goal here. But I hope it kind of conveys the sense that we came from there too. We weren't raised left-wing, progressive, Democrat, liberal snowflakes,
whatever you want to call me.
Whatever the hell you want to call it. Like, we came from that perspective. We were Mormon. So we get it. But it's never too late to start that process. Go read. Even if you think you know a lot.
Do work.
We don't know a lot.
Yeah. So follow us on our socials if you'd like to know more about what we do. Hit subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. This is obviously a little heavier content. We're thinking about coming back next week with some more. There's been some brewings in the Mormon influencer world, so we want to talk about those. So next week we'll do that. Thanks everybody for watching if you're still with us, and we will see you next time.